of the year, School Lunches and Nutritional Services with Karen Castaneda. I'm Cheryl Masterman, and Allison Crawford and I are the co-presidents of the ISC this year. The ISC is a parent guardian volunteer organization that connects the district's 11 HSAs and, among other things, hosts parent ed series evenings and hot topics every second Tuesday morning of the month for our entire community. At these hot topics, we bring in speakers of interest from the district to talk about various matters affecting our kids. So mark your calendars for our next hot topic, which is a legislative update with Tina Valletto, who's the Director of Community and Government Relations for Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. This will take place on Tuesday, December 13th at 9:30 via this same Zoom link. And on Monday, December 12th at 7 p.m., our Parent Ed series will be presenting, recognizing and responding to the warning signs of depression and suicide with Dr. Matthew Winterstein, also via Zoom. As far as this meeting with Ms. Castaneda goes, you will have the opportunity to ask questions via the raise hand function. I will be calling on you in the order you raise hands and as time allows. Please keep your comments brief and concise so we can all participate. Please state your questions generally rather than personally, as we are recording this session for future posting for our ISC YouTube channel. And now I'd like to turn it over to Karen Castaneda.
Thank you. I appreciate the chance to speak to you. Nutritional services is, I don't want to say it's complex, but it's very unique. It's a very interesting department, and it's an ever-changing environment that we work in. And the last several years have created new challenges, new opportunities, and basically have paved the way for where we are today, which is what I'm going to share with you. So I want to kind of review the agenda, which is, just give me a second there. Okay, so I want to share the current situation, the status of where we are with our employees and supply chain and things like that. I want to get into nutritional standards, and nutritional standards are created by USDA. It's kind of the bylaws for how we operate our department. Smart Snacks is, again, part of that USDA regulation, and it is the rules and regs for everything that we put out in the cafeteria and sell as a la carte. And then the financials, really, I just want to share kind of how our budget works and, where our revenue comes from. And that kind of creates the playing field and the control we have in terms of what we buy, what we sell, and how we do what we do. So let's get started here. So our department, school nutrition, obviously our main customers are our children. Our customers are also our staff. And we work under the premise, the picture in the bottom is kind of like the USDA, the areas, food groups that we have to incorporate in our meals to make our meals. Obviously in school nutrition, allergies are a huge component of what we do. Our elementary schools are peanut-free, nut-free. And we work with families and children that have allergies and try to establish, meals and food items that they can purchase as well. And up there in the right-hand corner, I have fruits and vegetables, and fruits and vegetables are key to our meals because in order for us to count a lunch as a lunch, a student has to have at least one serving of a fruit or vegetable. The same goes for breakfast. In order for us to count a breakfast to breakfast, a student has to have a serving of a fruit or vegetable. So fruits and vegetables are the key to our success in many ways. So let's just get started here. We want to look at really the current situation across the country. Everybody's kind of in the same boat. The last 2 years, we've been through a lot. We have changed on a dime over and over again. USDA creates our rules and regs and what I kind of refer to as bylaws for how we operate our department. And during the 2 years of COVID, we had 100 waivers. And every time USDA puts out a waiver, it means we're changing what we do. We're changing a regulation. We're changing the way we operate. We're changing something. And we went from, prior to COVID, serving meals in our cafeterias, having full-fledged menus. We were involved in student projects and student programs. And then we went from kind of I want to say an overabundance in our department of what we were able to do for our students in our community. And then we went into COVID and we were serving meals in a parking lot. So I feel like we went from one extreme of, I want to call it overabundance, to dire straits, serving in a parking lot, out of a bus and a truck and craziness. And now we're back, and we're trying to get back to normal, whatever we want to call it, the new normal. And we're, students are in our cafeterias. We don't have those alternate cafeterias anymore, and it's great. We're trying to expand our menus as best we can. And we're kind of in a new learning curve, right? Getting back to normal on the new learning curve, which is creating its own challenges and opportunities. So one of the things that we deal with across the board, across our nation, in every department, in every business, is supply chain, because our supply chain has changed. And we have all kinds of new issues, problems, challenges, and opportunities happening at the same time. So we deal with product changes. So we've got more costly, lower quality products readily available. Some of the higher quality products, a little more expensive and not as easy to get. We've got fewer products to choose from, which has definitely impacted our menus. And then we've got some questionable products, things I've never purchased before, I've never seen before. And we're just trying to, work with all of that. We've got companies that have no inventory. We've got delayed, purchases. We've got things that are being lost and stolen. I had ordered a truckload of chicken, and on that truckload were 10 pallets of chicken that were supposed to be delivered to our district. We ended up that the truck broke down in the middle of transit, in the middle of delivery. And in the end, I got 2 pallets of those 10 pallets, and they believed that they were stolen. So all kinds of situations are occurring. And it just makes everything a little more challenging, and you have to be patient. So when I put an order in, I know that, even though they tell me it might be coming in next week, I may not get it next week. So I've got to have another plan that I can run with if I don't get my delivery on time. And that's not just, nutritional service. It's every business out there, every corporation, every line of business is dealing with hiccups in supply chain. So we're no different. The other thing that's happening is what they call the Great Resignation, and that not just schools and not just school nutrition, but I would say every business everywhere. Food service has been hit really hard. Bus drivers, teachers, that we're seeing more resignation rates. We're seeing more people leave their job, and maybe they're finding a different job. Maybe they're finding a job that they can do from home, or the fact that there are so many opportunities out there in the work world, in business, that they're saying, you know what, I need to try something new, and they're moving on. So that's happening everywhere. So everybody's dealing with this. The other thing that's happening in the workforce is what we call quiet quitting. And quiet quitting is like when somebody's saying, you know what, I'm here, but I'm moving on, I'm going to be doing something else. And maybe they're just not fully into their job. Maybe they're not fully present because they're looking to move forward into something else. So we're seeing quiet quitting, which is like, okay, I'm going to only do the minimum of what's possible. I'm not going to go above and beyond. So we're dealing with short staff, and we're dealing with some staff that maybe aren't fully engaged, and they're not fully present, and they don't really want to be there. So it kind of changes how they approach their work and what they bring to the table. And again, these are slides from human resource references. They're across the board, something that everybody is dealing with. But back to our cafeterias, we've got staffing shortages, we've got challenges. It's across the nation that this is occurring. When we started this school year, we were down about 25 positions. We hired about 10 people. I felt so fortunate. We had 10 new people coming in, and about of those 10 people, I think I've already lost 3 for different reasons. You know, they come in, they try it. Maybe it's really not what they thought it was going to be. They found something else. So we're constantly looking for staff, and we never really were full staff. But when I saw those numbers in June and July, and I was 25 people short, I was really getting nervous and so happy when we were able to bring some new people on in August and September. But we're still struggling. And one of our advantage points and one of our benefits is that in this district, we can share staff. So we have about 20 of the transportation staff that come into our cafeterias on a daily basis and help us. They work for nutritional services in between their bus runs. And so that is really a benefit for us. And the funny part, I have to kind of smile about this, is that many of my staff who go on in and they're promoted and they find new opportunities in the district, they go on to work for transportation, because they can automatically, as soon as they leave my department and go over there, if they don't have medical benefits, they can get them because they're working longer hours. But then many of them come back and they work for nutritional services in between. So it's a really wonderful thing that I'm going to say, share staff in our district, and we offer that advantage that our staff can make more money by working for dual departments. So that's a wonderful thing in our district, and I'm so grateful that we have that opportunity. So really, what is our reality? Our reality in the school nutrition arena is that we are facing shortages of supplies, things like turkey, bread, apple juice, and even paper supplies. Plastic cutlery are sometimes hard to find, and you have to wait. We're limited in terms of the items that are available. I know turkey was a really shaky topic, and they were telling us we weren't going to have turkey for Thanksgiving. And there were times in September where I couldn't even buy turkey from my main vendor, and I had to go to a backup vendor. So it's really interesting, challenging, and I say it's an opportunity to find new products, find new ways, change how you're doing business, change your thinking, and just come up with new ideas, because that's what you have to do. I mean, that's really what we have to do in these cases. But one thing that I will always say, and I've always said, is that we will never run out of food. We buy smart, we buy ahead. We're always planning ahead. So if, I can't get turkey, I've got chicken. So I will always have something in the freezer. I will always have something for our children and our staff and our cafeterias. But we just have to stay ahead, stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of the curve, and kind of know what's coming next. So the next thing that I really wanted to share, and I know this slide is really busy, but it's the USDA, it's the meal pattern chart that we work with. And I know part of it is cut off, and I'm not going to get into all the detail, but I just want to say that when we plan our meals, when we plan breakfast meals, when we plan lunch meals, we work with the framework that USDA has developed in the rules and regulations. And what we're operating on for this year and for next year is, they call them transitional standards. So in the last 2 years, when we were under the COVID pandemic rules and waivers, we were following different standards, and the standards kept changing because of what was available in the supply chain. I mean, during the pandemic, things were a little crazy, and deliveries and what was available and all of that changed weekly. So USDA was changing the rules to match what was happening, in our environment, and so that we could still provide meals to families, but the rules were very different. Even the rules last year were very different in terms of what we could provide and how we serve students, because we were allowed to serve students in alternate cafeteria settings. We were allowed to have students pick up a meal and just use a check sheet to, check off that they got that meal. This year, all of our students, they have to come to the cafeteria. We have to ring those meals and those anything that they purchase, meals, snacks, all have to be rung through our point of sale system. And last year we didn't have to do that. So the rules changed so we could provide meals in alternate settings, alternate cafeterias. And what we were able to provide in those meals was different than the rules that we follow today. So the transitional standards, we have to ensure, I said, a fruit and vegetable has to be served with every meal. So a student, if they don't select a fruit and vegetable and they're trying to buy a meal, we generally will tell them, if you grab a fruit or vegetable, if you grab some apples or some carrots or pick up a fruit juice, that we can then charge you for the meal instead of, ringing you up a la carte. So even when we look at the vegetables, there are rules and regs for how many servings of dark green vegetables versus orange vegetables, which is versus starchy vegetables that we serve and that we have in our menus. So the goal with this slide is just to share that there are a lot of rules and a lot of standards that we have to follow in order to get that menu produced and out there, for our families and our students to review. And sometimes people are like, why isn't the menu ready? Well, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to develop those menus. And with some of the issues with supply chain, we may have something on our menu and all of a sudden now we can't get it. It's not available. So we've got to change that menu. And during the pandemic time, we were doing those menus like weekly, every 2 weeks, because if we planned too far ahead, we would have to change everything anyway because of what we were able to get. Supply chain, although it's still hectic and it's still a little crazy, it is much more dependable than it was in the last 2 years. So we have gone back to monthly menus, although we still might have to make some changes. It's pretty rock solid that when we've got that menu out for the month of November or the month of December, that it's going to be okay. And we're not going to be having to, change it in the middle of the month. So that being said, we follow rules for lunch meals. We follow similar set of rules for the breakfast meals. We've got to have a certain amount of fat, a certain amount of sodium, a certain amount of sugar in those meals in order to qualify and meet the standards that USDA has us working under. So I want to do another slide for smart snacks. And hopefully you can see these, they aren't too small. But smart snacks is really another term for a la carte items. So there are regulations for our breakfast meals and our lunch meals. And there are also regulations for everything that we sell a la carte. Another term is smart snacks. And so all of those items, whether they're an entree or a snack, there are calorie levels that we have to follow for them, sodium levels, fat levels, saturated fat, trans fat, and sugars. And if it doesn't meet all those standards, then technically we can't sell it. We can't have it in our cafeteria. And there's other rules, if you serve it for an entree. So say I have, let's just say I have a lemon chicken. So I have a lemon chicken that I'm selling in the cafeteria. It's on the menu for today for lunch. And technically I could sell that same lemon chicken tomorrow if I wanted to. And it would go under the smart snack rules because it's not my entree of the day. It's now, I'm going to use it and say, okay, it's an a la carte item. It's an entree. I can sell it tomorrow because it was menued yesterday. There's those kind of rules that the more I talk, the more complicated it could get. But I just really want you to understand that we don't just put things on the menu. Everything that's on the menu, it meets the regulations for meals, or it meets the rules and regulations for the smart snack. And we really, we really have to think about what we're menuing. And the other thing I want to tell you is that some of the items that are out there in our cafeterias, I know cereal is a hot topic. So we have cereals out there and people question, well, what about the sugar content? Why do you have this cereal out there for sale? Why is it on the breakfast menu? Or why are you selling it a la carte? A lot of our products that we're buying for school nutrition are developed for school nutrition. So many of our cereals are reduced sugar cereals. You can't find them in the grocery store because they're developed for school nutrition. They're made for school nutrition. And so you might think, okay, why is a cereal? Let's just say Frosted Flakes. I'm just going to say that. Frosted Flakes is out in the cafeteria. Why are you selling it? It's not the same Frosted Flakes that you buy in the supermarket. It's one that is produced for school nutrition. It's reduced sugar and it meets the guidelines for the meal guidelines or for the smart snack guidelines. However, I'm selling it in my cafeteria, it's meeting the guidelines or I can't have it in the cafeteria. So that's just kind of some background for, how do we go about menuing certain things, or how do we decide what we're going to put in the cafeteria? There's a lot of work. There's a lot of legwork behind all of those decisions of how we get to put things in our cafeteria and how we get to put things on our menu. And like the products are changing all the time as well. So we yearly, several times a year, go to what we call food shows, where vendors are present and they are showing us the latest products that they have. We're doing sampling testing, we're doing taste testing, we're getting information from vendors, nutritional information, ingredient information, to make sure that these are items that we, first of all, want to serve. It's the type of quality we want to have. And the vendors know that they have to meet the standards that I'm sharing with you today in order for us to menu those items. So they're always coming up with new items, which is great because we like to have new items for our students. We don't want people to get bored with our menus. And I just, I'm just always interested in finding something new for our students, something different for our students. And we try to have a variety of items because we know that not everybody likes the same thing. Everyone's unique. They have diverse eating habits and diverse, call it tastes. They know they want certain foods. We try to put some ethnic foods out there as well. And we just always are trying to look for new products to try for our students.
Hey, so, Karen, I'm going to just break in for just a second. This slide in particular is really hard to see.
I know.
I'd be risking if I said, can you put it in presentation mode, the possibility of it going away.
No, you know what? Let me go, wait a minute. Hang on.
I was worried what happened.
I know, I have to go backwards, but that's all right. Yeah. I'd rather do this than just
while you're doing that. It looked like it was the calories for snacks are 200 calories or less.
Yes.
Entrees are 350 or less.
Yeah. Is that any better? Can you see it better now? Is it any better?
It is to me. Sodium is 200 milligrams or less for snack, 480 or less for an entree.
Yep.
Yeah, it's better.
Fat is 35% or less. Saturated fat is less than 10%. Trans fat is 0. And total sugars by weight is 35% or less.
Thanks.
And it's funny because 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember the exact year, they used to have the calories at 230, and then they moved the calories down to 200. So these rules, they change, they review them and they change them as we move forward. So, and, as we go under like child nutrition reauthorization, as they go through that whole process, they review everything again. And that is supposed to happen every 5 years, but it's a little off track with COVID, just like everything. So, they're constantly under review, and they go out for current research, and they match it with the current regulations for the RDA guidelines. So, all right. Do we want to break for questions, or do we want to wait till the end? Because we can do anything we want.
When we start, I think when we start questions, they'll start flooding and you might not get to finish. So
okay. Well, you know what? The good thing about this is I don't have a ton of slides because I knew that there was going to be questions, and I want to have a lot of time for people to ask questions and me to try and answer the questions.
Thank you, Karen.
And so we'll move on from smart snacks. And I just want to talk a little bit about financials because this is always a very interesting topic. So where does our money come from, right? So we get federal and state reimbursements, okay? And right now breakfast is free. So the last 2 years we've had free meals, right? During COVID, we had free breakfast and we had free lunch, and nobody had to pay for any of the meals, only a la carte. And we got federal and state reimbursements to cover the meals, which was really very interesting and a nice break from having to collect money and having families having to pay for meals. So it was, and it was in a way, it was almost an experiment for districts like Lower Merion, because Lower Merion, we're part of the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program, which means that we offer the opportunity for families to apply for free and reduced meals. And if they qualify, they are able to either have free meals or reduced meals. But our district is one of those districts where that percentage of families is on the lower end, right? So for everybody in the district to be able to have free meals, that was really amazing. Because in this district, we're not a district that is called CEP, which is community eligibility, which when you have CEP, it means that a large percentage of your community and your population is eligible for free and reduced meals. So CEP schools are schools like Reading or Allentown, where the percentage of families are more on that lower economic scale. But Lower Merion is not that way. Lower Merion is a small percentage of families. So when we started this school year, we went back to paid meals. At least that's what we thought. So we went back to, meals are going to be paid, but if you are eligible for free or reduced, then you're going to have either free meals or you're going to pay the reduced cost for meals. And then October 1st, they decided, our governor actually made the decision that we were going to have free breakfast. So that announcement came out, I think it was like second week in September, maybe, or maybe it was September 9th. I think it was September 9th that we were going to have free breakfast starting October 1st. So that was a surprise. And so now we offer free breakfast to all our students who want to come in the cafeteria and get that breakfast. But we have to pay for lunch and we have to pay for any a la carte snack items. So we're getting the federal and state reimbursement for breakfast now, but for families that want to buy lunch, we have free and reduced meals. We're getting the federal and state reimbursements, but then families are paying for meals if they're paid status or the reduced status, and they have to pay that reduced fee. So we've got federal and state reimbursements. We've got families paying, which I didn't put that in there, but families are paying if they're buying. And then if you're buying a la carte, your families are paying for that. And then we've got catering revenue. So we've got meetings, events that go on in the district. So they want administrators are meeting and they need a lunch or they need a breakfast, or we're having a reception. We're having the 25-year, employee reception, or we're having the Merit Scholar reception for students. We do the catering for that. And then we do a charge for that and we get, reimbursed for that. So we don't get revenue from taxes. Families pay taxes to the district, but those taxes go under what's called the general fund. Nutritional Services has their own fund. So that money is really the federal and state reimbursements, what families are paying for meals and snacks, a la carte items, and catering revenues. That's our money. That's our revenue that comes in. So with the money that comes in, we pay all our salaries. We buy all our food. We pay for repairs. Like if we need new equipment and we need parts for the equipment, we pay for that. So we are a self-operated, self-sufficient department within the school district. So we are standalone and we do our own financials. We have a profit and loss statement that is shared with the board on a yearly basis. And during COVID, it was very rocky, because our students weren't here, right? They weren't here buying meals. So when we were totally shut down and we were virtual, we had a drive-through. That's what I was talking about. We were serving meals in a parking lot. And our financials took a huge hit because we didn't have our student population in school buying meals. We weren't doing catering because nobody was here. They were working from home. So our financials got really ugly during the 2 years that COVID, the pandemic kind of took over our operations. And now that we're coming back, and last year, I'm going to say many of our students or most of our students were on site. We were serving meals in the alternate cafeterias, but we had good participation and meals were free. So more families were taking advantage of it. So we're kind of building back our finances. We're not where we were pre-pandemic, but we are in good shape and we are moving forward. And we are trying to go back to where we were, which was a wonderful place. I mean, our menus are getting better in terms of variety and what we can do, what we can offer, but it really all goes hand in hand. Like when we're short staffed, we can't do as much as what we want to do. When we're fully staffed, we can do a better variety in our menu selection. We can do more for our students. But the fact that we have the transportation staff working with us and helping us out in our cafeterias helps us to move forward in the way that we want to, be fully, I don't want to say fully functioning, but fully functioning and kind of like we were before the pandemic, where our menus had this wide variety and like a more maybe enticing selection of food items. So we're working toward that goal. And I think we're in a good place. We have a decent menu variety. Our menus are back to the monthly rotation from the weekly to the monthly. And we are continually looking for new products and trying to incorporate them in our menus. And we're in a good place. I'm going to say that we're in a good place. And we're always looking to do more and to get better. And one of the things that really kind of helps us move in that direction is, I'm going to say, student input, family input as well, but the students are the ones eating the meals. So the parents can say, what about trying this or what about trying that? And, when we try, I buy a lot of chicken. So I buy boneless, skinless chicken breast. I have boneless, skinless, organic chicken, tender strips, unbreaded. I buy whole muscle chicken tenders. I do not buy chicken patties. I do not buy chicken nuggets because I don't like that pressed meat. I like the whole muscle. It's leaner, it's better quality, and it's what I want for our students. So that's what we buy. But if I put out chicken tenders that are breaded versus a chicken breast, like a lemon butter chicken or General Tso's chicken, but it's made with the unbreaded chicken, the chicken tender wins, because that's what our students would prefer. If I put them neck and neck and I run a contest. But we want to have a variety of everything. So we want to have those nice, healthy meals that are unbreaded, less fat, more like I'm going to say a home cooked meal. So we do incorporate, we do have different items, a chicken stir fry, a lemon chicken, a General Tso's chicken, a chicken parm, unbreaded, those type of things we do offer. At one point I was even offering seafood. I used to get a lot of tilapia. At one point I had catfish, but when I put fish up against chicken tenders or pizza, that fish doesn't win. But I still want to be able to menu that. I still want to have that variety. Just knowing that, there's certain days that our participation is going to be higher because they're more of student favorites. But, it's kind of like a trial and error, right? You menu different things, you see what the students are going to want, you see what your participation is, and you learn from that, and you keep going. So we always will have the student favorites, the pizza, the chicken tenders, breakfast for lunch, those, I just can't, I can't beat those. Those are high participation days, but I still want to put things like fish. I still want to have my boneless, skinless chicken breasts and different recipes that I put on there. I always want to have salads. In our cafeterias, we do have salads. We have in the high schools and in the middle schools are those salads, they're entree salads. So they can get this tossed salad that might be a spinach salad. You can get it with tuna. You can get it with a hard-boiled egg. You can get it with cheese sticks. And those are out there daily. In the elementary, we have them. They're smaller because students are, we're using different regulations. So portions are different in the elementary schools, but there's salads there in the elementaries as well. I think they're bigger sellers in the secondary schools than in the elementary schools. But for students that are looking for, I don't know what you want to say, vegetarian, or just different options, we try to have them. At one point, we bought plant-based burgers. There was a petition for plant-based burgers, vegetarian meals in the cafeterias. So I bought a huge lot of them, and I started to put them in the secondary schools. That's more where the demand was, in the middle schools and in the high schools. But then when I menued them in terms of participation for those plant-based burgers, it really wasn't there. It was just a few children that were really wanting that. And we were having, or we had the veggie burgers. I think that's more common, the veggie burgers that were, offered in the cafeterias as well. But then the plant-based burgers kind of became all the rage. So we wanted to try those as well. But then we found, like I said, participation for that, or the need for that, or the demand for that wasn't as high as what it seemed like it was going to be. But we always want to have those types of choices and those types of options for students in the cafeterias. So that being said, back to the financials is we try and balance everything. We try and balance the cost of the meals and the cost of the a la carte items that we sell in the cafeterias with the labor that we have to produce those meals, and have them available out there in our cafeterias, utilizing our paper products, our plastic trays, whatever it is we can get to serve those meals on and serve those meals with. So it's a balancing act of all three, labor, menu options, and the food items we can get, and then the small wares, or the paper supplies and the utensils and things like that that we can get in the cafeterias. And every one of those, from the labor, the cost of labor, the food, the cost of food, and the paper and what we call small wares, paper, small equipment, that type of thing. Everything's been impacted over the last couple of years. Everything is higher cost. The food has gone up 30 to 40%. Some of the food has doubled. Labor cost has gone up tremendously. And we're trying to keep up with the cost of labor. And the funny thing, I have to laugh. I used to be able to compete with McDonald's way back when. McDonald's starting rate was $8, $9, $10. Then McDonald's went up to 15, and I was below. We were starting employees below. We were starting employees at 13. Then we moved it up to 14, and my part-timers are now at 15. And it's like, wow, I can't, when I said I can't compete with McDonald's anymore, that doesn't sound good. But now we can. We're kind of even with them again. But I used to be better than McDonald's in terms of what I was paying my staff. And it just goes to show that the playing field has changed. The game has changed. And people are stepping up. Big corporations like McDonald's, Chick-fil-A starts at $17 an hour, if you believe it. They have a lot of money to put out there, right, for their staff. So it's really created an opportunity for people that if they want to change jobs, now's the time, because you can get anything you want, I think. But it's made it harder for us, but the nice thing is that I have staff. Some of them have been around for like 30 years, and they love what they do. They love this. They love the children, and they are happy to come to work every day and do what they do, which is a blessing for me and for everyone that we work with. So anyway, this is my time to say, the way to get things started is for me to quit talking and begin doing, and to listen to what our parents have to say. And that's a quote from Walt Disney.
That's great. I love that quote. Thank you, Karen. Oh my gosh. This was so fascinating. I mean, I struggle to figure out what to make for dinner every night. I can't even imagine having to do it with supply chain issues and staffing issues. It's like, oh my goodness, this is.
Yeah.
Now, I invited people to raise hand and speak themselves, and everybody's writing in the chat. So I'm not bringing up, but I'm going to start looking through, and oh my gosh, where do we start at? Here we go.
Okay.
How do you inspect what you expect? Do you visit the school cafeterias and eat the food? How do you get student input? How do parents provide input?
Well, I do go to the schools, and I have an assistant, Mo, and we both go to the schools every day, all the time. One day, I think I was at 8 schools. It gets exhausting. but I try to get out there as much as I can. But then on the flip side of that, we have work we need to do in our office. So, but I love to visit my schools because the best part of my job is really my staff. I just love them. They work so hard, and they really, the ones, and I'm not talking about the people that I just hired in September, October, they're wonderful too, but the people that have been there 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, they are there for a reason. You know, they love what they do. They love the kids. They have passion about their job, and they know they make a difference. And I love to be with those people because they make my life easier and they bring joy to my day. So that's one of the reasons I like to be out in the cafeterias. The other reason is I want to know what's going on. I want to see what's happening with our kids. I want to see what's going on in the cafeterias. I want to see what they want, you know, what they're eating, what they're selecting. I want to watch them go through the line to see if there's a better way to do it. I interact with them if I get the opportunity to interact with them. And it really helps me understand everything I need to know. I mean, being there on the ground floor is the only way for me to know everything. So that's where I like to be.
Now, Cicely asked this question and has her hand raised, so I'm wondering if she wants to clarify.
Sure, absolutely, because I'm not even done answering, but go ahead.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you so much for making this presentation. Really appreciate it. And
Sure.
I can certainly appreciate the awesome opportunity that you have in front of you. It's like, how do you eat an elephant, right? Like one bite at a time. So, and I say this from a place of positive intent, but I'm not sure how you can possibly get to 8 schools and try the food and you know,
Well,
see
no,
what's going on in the
that was
cafeterias.
not about quality visits. That was about just me being present. So no, normally that was an exception, but I was just telling you, I like to get around. And sometimes if I can only spend 5 minutes, I want my people to see me. That's what that's about. A quality visit is more like 30 minutes to an hour. And so if I'm doing 30 minutes to an hour, maybe it's 2 schools I go to or 3.
Okay.
So yeah, that's not my normal day, but I was just telling you that I like to get out there. And even if I could only spend 5 minutes, if something critical is going on and I just want to be present and say to my people, I'm here for you. I'm here, you know, I'll go around like a mad woman and just be there for, even if it's just a few minutes. But on a quality day, it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour that I'm there and I'm observing and I'm talking to staff and I'm trying the food and I'm out there. You know what I'm saying? So every day is different. And we never know what our day is going to be like until we kind of get there. I mean, and I'm talking about sometimes call outs, right? So I may go to work and I have a plan. I'm going to go to this school or that school, but then guess what? The manager called out or her other employee called out and she's struggling and I need to go to another school instead. So there's a lot of change in our world because food service is a little different than some of the other jobs. I mean, and transportation is the same. We have deadlines, right? So if you're transportation, you've got to get the kids at a certain time and you've got to get them to the school at a certain time. So if a bus driver calls out, they better have another driver, right?
Karen, I just want to stop you because I feel like you're going down. I am fully confident that you know how to run staff. I have a business and we've got, you know, food service component to it. Yeah. I am 100% behind the fact that you know how to run your staff. What I am questioning is the customer, the students. Okay. So things that I have heard, and I'm not, this isn't personal, right? I'm one of the HSA presidents for the high school and for the middle school. And what I've heard is that the food quality really is not any better than it was during COVID. Yeah, during COVID, it was free and now we have to pay for it. So I'm wondering that's why I asked the question, do you inspect what you expect? So from what I'm hearing from you, I would think that the food quality was top notch. And what I'm hearing from students is that it has not returned back to where it was pre-COVID, where they really enjoyed the cafeteria food, that it is actually the same as it was in COVID, if not a little worse, yet they're having to pay for it. So how do you get feedback from students? How do you get feedback from parents? How do you solicit that? And, you know, and again, this is coming from a place of positive intent. I'm certainly not trying to beat you up.
No,
I'm just trying to figure out.
You can say anything you want to me, and if you think my answers are long-winded, it's because we have a lot of time. And I
Right, but
wanted
I
to
just
give a lot
wanted you
of
to know
time.
that I'm confident that from a business person and from a manager that you are connecting with your staff. But my concern is that your end user, the customer, the paying
Yep.
customer, is not getting what you're saying they're getting.
Okay,
And I'll stop
so
talking.
I'm gonna answer this in a couple of different ways because a lot of things have changed. So during the pandemic, during COVID, the waivers were different. So one of the things that happened in terms of what we were purchasing. So one of the standards is for whole grains. 80% of the whole grains today in the standards that we're following today are supposed to be whole grain. Traditionally, our students do not enjoy whole grain products as much as they enjoy white or enriched products. So I'm going to just say, so whole grain bread versus white bread. Club rolls or steak rolls that are crispy and your regular Italian style versus a whole grain steak or hoagie roll. There's a big difference in terms of the taste in those products. And sometimes the quality. Students like if they go to a deli and they get that amazing crisp Italian hoagie roll or steak roll versus if they come into the cafeteria and now they're getting a whole grain or a whole wheat steak roll, it's different. And during COVID, when meals were free, I could get that Italian, I could get that enriched or white Italian steak roll. All my pizza was white crust or enriched flour versus whole grain flour. Students enjoy that more than what, some of the products that I have to buy because the standards have changed. Now I have to have 80% of all my grains are whole grain. In COVID, I could do 100% enriched or white. And there is a quality impact there. So I am fully aware of that. I understand that. And I understand that the students get disappointed when I have to follow the whole grain enriched rules. So I know that for a fact, and I know that's a problem this year. Number two is I can't get some of the products that I could get before COVID, or even that I got a year ago. The supply chain, I feel like it just goes from one angle, like, French fries, then turkey, then pizza, then it's hitting all the products at different time frames. So this year at one point, I couldn't even get eggs. I couldn't get my turkey. The French fries were different. My pizza was impacted. I had to switch brands. So it's a continual shift in terms of some of the things that we're buying and what's available in supply chain. So that continues and it's changed. But back when we had full-fledged pandemic, there was 100 waivers that went through. And those waivers, part of that impact with those waivers is to make things easier for the end user, which is me, which is our department. When you're buying things, we're going to take the rules out. The rules that I was following in the pandemic were totally different than the rules that I'm following today. And that shows up in the menu, and that shows up in the menu and in the a la carte items and in the cafeteria of what our students are getting today and what is out there in the cafeteria, what they can get. Now, two things. Our menus are not where they were pre-COVID because staffing is an issue. Even though I have transportation staff helping me, they are not the same skill level as nutritional services staff. So they come in and they help serve. They do certain things for us, but they're not cooking the food. They're not doing the full-fledged preparation like our nutritional services staff is doing. So we are not where we want to be yet. And it's a good point. We're still working to improve. We're still expanding our menu and we're still in that point where we're moving forward, but we're not yet where we want to be. And I know that. I'm fully aware of that. My staff knows that. And our students are seeing that. if they're saying, well, it's different. It is different. It is different than when the meals were free because the rules were different. And I could serve them things that I am not allowed to serve them today. So that is a definite fact. And I own that. And it's upsetting because there are products that when I told my managers, you can no longer buy that, they were like, oh my God, the students are not going to like this. And I said, I know they're not, but these are the rules and we've got to follow the rules. So
So,
we know that we're
Karen,
serving some things. Yeah.
is there an opportunity for, like, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to, meet with other schools, even outside of the school district, and find out what's, what is popular yet within the guidelines in their
So
school, just to,
I just want to tell you, I'm part of a buying group, so I meet with other school districts, my peers, monthly on a regular schedule. I interact, we have a whole group, it's like a whole cohort of directors that we constantly are meeting with. I was just at a conference last week with about 100 different directors from all over the state. So we do that. I'm also the president of the DeVasbo organization for food service directors. So I plan meetings and education for my peers. So I just want to say I am fully integrated. I'm fully aware, both statewide and nationally, because I was a former president of school nutrition for the state and interacted with people from all over the United States in my position. So I know what you're saying. I understand. I want to say we're working under the same parameters because of the buying group that I'm in. We're buying the same products. So we're buying the same products, but I also want to say to you that I work outside of my buying group as well. I have backup vendors that I source very specific products from that I can't even buy from my typical vendors because my standards are different. And that's when I'm talking about my boneless, skinless chicken breast, my whole muscle chicken tenders, my organic boneless, skinless chicken breast strips that I have in my freezer. I can't get that from my buying group. I can't get that from US Foods. I have to source other vendors to get that product in. So we work with every vendor and every opportunity I have to buy different foods. But I will say, with the staffing shortages, I can't do the home cooked meals as often as I would want to. Because when we do the menus, we look at, like I said, all of the rules and nutritional standards to determine the foods that we're going to put on the menu. But then we also look at our staffing and we say, what is possible for them to produce? Can they make this? Do they have the staff? Can they do this the way we're operating right now? So we're still working with limitations that are preventing us from being exactly where we want to be. I mean, it's a continual work in progress to move forward to where we really want to be. So I understand what you're saying, and you can say anything to me. I'm not offended. I'm not. It's the goal here is really to clarify any question you have, and for me to maybe help you understand something if you didn't fully understand it, and for you, any of you, to share something with me to help me do something better than what I'm doing today. Because the feedback comes from the parents. It also comes from the students. And pre-pandemic, I had student task force in place. I was in the middle schools. I was in the high schools. I was out there more. So now it's like I've got to get back to where I was and get those types of committees. I mean, we had a green committee that we were running in the middle school, which was phenomenal. And we were trying to convert, I was going to convert 2 cafeterias. They were going to be my green cafeterias. It was going to be Harriton and Welsh Valley. But all of that stopped when we had to shut the doors down. So we're trying to go back to where we were, which is better than where we are today.
So it sounds like a little patience is necessary. Cicely, I want to move on. We've got
yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you for
thank you. Thank you.
So there's a question. If you don't make enough money to cover your cost, where do the needed funds come from?
Well, I'm going to say this. So when I was talking about prior to the pandemic, I was talking about abundance. So we never borrowed money from anybody because we had enough money in our own funds. So when I say abundance, our bank account was healthy. And since I've been at the district, we've always been running in the black, not in the red. And that means we've always made money. So we've always had some money in the bank. So prior to the pandemic, we had a healthy bank account. During the pandemic, it was very ugly. I don't want to tell you numbers, but we lost a lot of money, but we had enough money in the bank to cover our costs. We never borrowed money from anywhere. So school nutrition departments in school districts, if they run out of money, the general fund needs to cover their bills. That has never happened to us since I've been here, and it never happened to my former, well, I shouldn't never, I don't want to speak that way. It's since I've been here, which is, I'm in my 12th year, I've never borrowed money from anybody. We are self-sufficient, and the goal is to stay that way, always to stay that way. So we cover our own bills. And the good news is that our bank account is getting healthier.
Yeah. So Karen, when you say if you were in a situation like another school district was in a situation where the nutrition services was low on funds, they have to borrow from the school district's general fund.
Yes, that's called the general fund.
Got it.
They borrow from the school district, which most districts do not want that to happen because the money in the general fund is for student education, right? It's for every other department except for nutritional services. Nutritional services makes their own money. And the goal is that nutritional services stays healthy and self-sufficient. So we don't need to borrow that money, because when you talk about borrowing the money, it's like, well, wait a minute, that money's, set aside for student education. It's for books, it's for laptops, it's for teacher salaries, it's for, all the other departments, transportation, technology, whatever. And the money is generally allocated, construction, BlackRock. I mean, the money is always allocated for something. So we never want to get to that situation where we can't afford to pay our bills because no business wants to be there. Yeah. And school nutrition is really thought of as it's a separate entity, it's a separate fund, and it's a business within the school district. I mean, our goal is that we have a profit, and the money that is that profit goes back into the department to make it better. We buy equipment, we raise our salary staff so we can stay competitive with local businesses, and we buy better food. I mean, that's what we do with our money. So.
All right. Someone's asking, are you cooking these meals in the school?
Yes, there's a kitchen in every school building. Every kitchen, every kitchen has equipment. We cook the meals there. Every school has a kitchen and the cafeteria, and our equipment is newer. The last district that I was in, I had equipment that was 50 years old. Our schools, we take pride in our buildings. Our schools are well maintained, well cared for, and so are our kitchens. We have operations technicians that are in there working on our equipment, checking our equipment and keeping everything fully functional. They let me know when something is shot and I need to replace it, and I buy it. So that's that. We continually are putting new equipment in our kitchens. Yeah.
Stephanie asks, I'm curious if a food item such as a pack of craisins is considered a fruit by school standard lunch standards, even though it contains 21 grams of added sugar.
It is
24 grams total. Now the American, and then it says here, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends kids consume less than 25 grams of added sugar per day. So one snack pack is nearly a full day's allotment of added sugar.
So the rules are different for dried fruit. So those craisins are considered a dried fruit, just like raisins. And the rules are different because there's naturally occurring sugar in, dried fruit, raisins, craisins. So any fruit has got fructose and it's sugar, right? But it's natural sugar. So those raisins and craisins have naturally occurring fruit, which is fructose. And in a dried fruit option, so let's take not the craisins right now, but the raisins, because it's a little easier to explain, in a whole fruit way. So if you're eating something like grapes in the whole fruit, it's not as condensed as, say, raisins. So if you're having grapes or say apples or something, the portion is 1/2 cup, 4 ounces. If you're having raisins or a dried fruit craisins, the portion is 2 ounces because it's dried. So you eat less to have the same portion amount, and it's condensed. And there is sugar, and there is some added sugar in there as well, but it's viewed differently, it's counted differently, and it's handled differently in the eyes of USDA, who draws up the regs and rules that we follow. So it's your option if you want to have a craisin, or you want to have a sliced apple, or you want to have a whole orange or a banana, or a cup of fruit juice. There are options out there for our students, and those craisins and those raisins are convenient for children if they need to purchase a meal, they want to purchase a meal, but they can't finish everything. They can throw that raisin pack or that craisin pack in their book bag, and they can run all day with that in their pack, and it's not going to spoil. But if you want to put something like apples, maybe like apple slices, or the carrots, that's still okay in the backpack for a couple of hours, but that should really be refrigerated
But isn't
versus,
that amount,
a whole fruit or a pack.
isn't that
I'm sorry.
concentration of sugar still a large amount for the weight? I mean, your body's going to process sugar no matter what kind of sugar it is. It's a lot of sugar.
I think it's the difference between natural sugar and added sugar. It says there's 21 grams of added sugar versus 24 grams of total sugar. So it's 3 grams. I think raisins would be a better example of dried fruit where there's not a lot of added sugar.
Raisins is definitely, raisins is better. Raisins is a cleaner label. Raisins is a
21 grams of added 21 grams of added sugar. The number one ingredient is sugar before even cranberries on these.
I will say this though, that is under the regulations, and dried fruit, there are different rules for dried fruit, and even that there's added sugars, it meets the rules for smart snacks, and it meets the rules of a component to serve for a meal, even though it may not be the best choice, but it's there.
Yeah.
I put in my comment, it was
cranberries without sugar. Cranberries without sugar, go ahead, try to make your kids eat it.
You can't even eat them.
I would say
cranberries without sugar, it's so tart. I can eat them, but I mean, I like the tart cranberry juice, but not everybody has that palate. So it's an option. There's just like everything else, there's options in the cafeteria, and some people are going to be happy with those options and choices, and some people are not. So there's whole apples, there's bananas, there's oranges, there's apple slices, there are fruit cups, there are dried fruits. There's options out there, and the goal is to have enough options that every child who wants to come through the cafeteria to buy breakfast or lunch is going to find something that they like and that they will eat. And that's the goal, is just to have a lot of variety out there so that they can find something that they will put on their tray and they will actually eat. So
that is a key. How are lunches different at elementary, middle, and high schools?
Well, let's start with elementary. So the rules are different. The portion sizes are different. The amount of, so the portions are different. So grain, protein, portions are different. I need to serve a bigger portion for my middle school and my high school than I do at the elementary school, in order for it to qualify and be a valid menu under USDA rules and regs. And it makes sense because they're younger children. They're not going to eat as much. So a high school child is going to eat more than an elementary child. I think we all know that. So portion sizes are different. Fat content is pretty much the same in terms of grams per meal, percent per meal. It's a percentage, because if the portion's bigger, it's going to have more fat in it. Calorie levels are different at the elementary, middle, and high school. And so it's kind of all based on, if the portion size is different, the calorie count's going to be different. The fat actual content, but not percentage of calories, is going to be different as well. So we actually use a program, and we put the menus, we put all the data in the program, and it'll tell us if our menu meets the standards or not. And if it doesn't meet the standards, we go back and we then fix it to meet the standard. So if this entree doesn't work and I can't serve it, or if I need to serve, if I have this entree this day and it's got more fat or more calories, then I need to pick something that's got less fat or less calories. So it works out for a week. We don't do it day by day. It has to balance over a 5-day period, which is our school week. So I don't know if I fully answered the question, but the other thing is that the variety of the menu is different. So there's less variety in the elementary menu. They're going through a cafeteria line, where in the secondary schools, it's kind of like a scatter system. There's the line, but then they can get pizza at a station, they can get deli at a station, there's salad in another station. So elementary has the least amount of variety because of the setup in the cafeteria. They're going through a line, and there's 3 to 4 entrees maybe on a given day. Middle school, high school, it's broader. There may be 7 to 10 entrees that they could pick up in the high school versus the middle school, and elementary's got the fewest.
Someone wanted some clarification. Do you have the money to hire more staff and just can't get them?
Oh, yes, I do. So if you know somebody who wants to work in our department, send them along. Yes, I do. No, we're not hurting for money in any way like that. No, we are looking for staff. We are interviewing every day. We are interviewing people. We advertise on Indeed. The district advertises on Indeed for, the transportation, teachers, whatever. So we're on Indeed, and then we obviously, are on our own website for the district. And I tell my staff all the time, if you know somebody, please tell them to come. So I have staff referrals. I have one of my staff members brought in 2 new people, another staff brought in another person. And that works out well. I mean, if somebody knows somebody and they're looking for work, they're usually a good gamble. They usually work out well. No, we're looking to bring in as many people as I can.
Can you speak to logistics? It looks like people are saying sometimes the food runs out before their kids get the choice they want. For example, sushi. I know that's a biggie. And also
sushi is very interesting. But
aside also from sushi, that the lines are long and kids are having
yes. So here's the thing. So we're going, things have changed year to year. We keep changing, right? So in the beginning of the year, we try to get data. I mean, the staff document everything they do. So we have the menus, and then they do what's called production records. So at the end of the day, they're writing down, if we had chicken, how much chicken did we produce and how much did we sell? How much pizza did we produce and how much did we sell? How many salads? Every item. So they're writing that, they have a record, right? And if they're using the point of sale, they get that printout, they match it to the record that they manually made, and we have those records. So if we're doing a monthly menu, and then we want to go back. So now we have September's data, we have October, now we're in November. Let me go back and see what happened in September and October. And maybe I sold 100 of the chicken and I sold 85 salad and I don't know, 115 pizza or whatever. Then that gives them an idea what to produce. Okay. But we are finding that we're still not tracking, the data is still not, the forecasts are not as accurate as we want them to be. They're still changing a lot. And I think because this year is so new, everybody's coming back into the cafeteria. We're not doing these alternate cafeteria box meals anymore. Everyone's coming back. So, maybe some of the kids didn't buy in September. They weren't ready, but now they're buying in October. More kids are buying in November. It's constantly changing. And now we have free breakfast. So that totally changed, so now more are buying. So we are running out of some things. And the goal is that even if we run out of some things, we're not running out of food totally, but maybe we ran out of one entree too early because more children than we realized or that we predicted are buying that than we thought. And so we're running out. We don't have enough time to produce more. Sushi was hysterical because we haven't had the sushi in, it's been a while. And then for Black Rock, what we would buy for the high school is what we bought. And we ran out of that in one lunch period. So I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Sushi was really hard. It's hard to predict anything right now. And sushi comes from a specific company, a vendor who has a local restaurant. And, we order ahead, they bring it that morning and we can't get more of that. Once they do the delivery, we're done. We have what we have. And it really was unbelievable what happened at I don't know if you're referring to Black Rock or another school, but I was shocked with what happened over there.
So when you see popularity, then you can increase your
Then order. We know we need to increase our number for next time. Yeah.
And then absolutely. Some kids not being able to get through the line in time to actually eat it because there's some constraints with, I imagine that has to do with short staffing.
Well, the lines in general seem to move. I mean, in the beginning of the year, it's always interesting. And this year, particularly because we didn't use the point of sales for 2 years. So we have children in 3rd grade that never used a point of sale before because they were getting free meals and we were doing a paper record. We were not doing a computerized record. So, they have to learn their student ID. They punch in their ID. If they don't know their ID, my staff will look up their name and then get their PIN number so they can get it to punch in. I mean, so it's taking a lot of time this year, I think, because we're going back to the traditional system and some students have never seen the traditional system. So that has, lengthened the lines or backed up the lines or held up the lines, whatever term you want to use. And it's just as students get more comfortable, they know their number, they know what they're doing, the lines will get quicker. Of course, if there's a lot of students, they're only going to move so fast. And I'm short staffed, they're only going to move so fast. But I would say they've gotten better. And they're going to continue to get better as students get more proficient with the whole system. And as I continue to get more staff in.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, I hate to have students wait in line and then they can't get what they want. That's not what we want, but that does happen. So,
What percentage of the meals made are made in-house and what percentage are pre-made before they come?
so we buy, if you want to call them ready to serve or ready-made, things like pizza, we're not making our own pizza. So pizzas, it comes in, it's in the raw state though. It's like, and we're baking the pizza in our pizza ovens. Chicken is coming in frozen. So boneless, skinless is just like you would buy in the grocery store. It's frozen. We thaw it out, we cook it. Chicken tenders, anything that's something like chicken tender is what we call set in oil. It means it's flash cooked. So it's produced and it's breaded and then it's set in oil and it's a very high temperature. They flash cook it. So it's set. So when I get it, it's still raw inside. We bake it in the oven. Hamburgers, I do not usually buy raw. I usually buy pre-cooked and we bake them, like heat them up. Because raw it's just not something, I mean, I do buy them sometimes, but I'd rather not have raw beef in the kitchen too much because foodborne illness and that type of thing. We buy ground, we call them like beef crumbles or taco meat that is pre-cooked and we are heating it.
French
tomato
toast
sauce.
Question.
What?
Is the French toast made in-house when you have breakfast for lunch?
The French toast, no. That is a frozen product. It's like a waffle. We buy it frozen, or a pancake. We buy it frozen. They heat them up. No. There's too many products out there already made for us that meet the standards. It's convenience that we do that. So
is
the
there
things that are scratch. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to move on to
Things that would be scratch are like if we would do a chicken and a rice, General Tso's, that's made in-house. Lemon butter chicken, that's made in-house. If we would do like a spaghetti and meatballs, the meatballs we're buying already made. They're frozen. The sauce is from a can, the pasta is from a box. You know what I mean? Just like you would do at home. Some of our soups, they're made from scratch that the managers make. Soup is more in the secondary level, high schools, you'll see that more. They'll make it from scratch. Salads, obviously they're buying the produce. They're cutting up fruits and, but the vegetables, tomatoes, onion. Sometimes they'll put fruit like strawberries in a salad. They buy that, they cut it. The lettuce comes in chopped. Sometimes they buy whole heads of lettuce, they cut that down. So one of my managers makes homemade dressing at one of the high schools. It's absolutely phenomenal. I don't expect that, but she does that. She likes to make certain things from scratch and it's amazing. But, everybody's got different talents and they bring that to the table. And I love that and I embrace that. But generally we buy our salad dressings because we don't have time to make from scratch. But certain people like to share their talents and they do what they can do.
Is it at all possible for parents to come and have a meal with their kids in school?
You know what? I know we're open to volunteers. I don't know if we're able to do that. And I say that because prior to the pandemic, I would say we could probably do that. Right now, we're open to volunteers, but I don't know how open principals are to inviting parents in to come and have lunch. That might be a special day, right? Where parents can come in or grandparents can come in, but I don't know that we would do that on any given day. I used to invite parents to come into the cafeteria and especially parents with children with allergies. Let's look at labels. I can't give you everything over the phone, but if you really want to come and look at labels with me, I can do that with you. But I still would go through the principal to see, are you comfortable with me doing that? Just because things have changed so much over the last couple of years.
Are there any plans to eliminate foods with artificial colors such as red 40, yellow, and yellow 6 from the LMSD food offerings?
I will say this. I don't like those either. I really don't like that. And the beautiful thing is that in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, companies are getting smarter and they're using things like beet juice for color instead of red food dye. So that I am seeing that. I'm reading labels of products that I am buying that have natural coloring, which makes me feel better and more comfortable. I don't like buying that stuff either or eating it. So I understand that feeling, and I want as much of a clean label as I can get. But certain products they're not there yet. Certain companies are not there yet, but I think we're moving in the right direction, which is a wonderful thing, because we all want to feel like whatever we're eating is healthier and is good for us. And it should be, right? That's our right. That's our right. So I agree with that. And I am 100% on that same page, but we are just not there that every product is like that, but we're moving in that direction.
Oh my gosh, some of these questions are really long. I'm trying to find the key point. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
Could the prices of entrees be increased to make them more healthful and delicious? Would that help you with sourcing supplies?
I want to say this. So two things, I'm going to answer this in two ways. So our meal pricing is, I'm going to say it's where it needs to be, because you can't price yourself out of the market. Like that's what's a little scary sometimes. Like you don't want to make it too high that families can't afford it. And realize, even though we have a low percentage of low economic families, everybody's budget is unique. And in today's economy, everything is more expensive. So we raise the prices to where we need to be. And we hadn't had a price increase for like 5 or 6 years. We held it for 5 or 6 years, which is a great thing. But I don't want to price ourselves out of the market. So our meal price is where it needs to be. But when a child comes in the cafeteria and they're buying a la carte, which means, okay, so a child, that happens a lot of times in the secondary schools. They're going to buy a deli sandwich or a salad or a pizza, and they're going to buy a bottle of water because they don't want anything else. They don't want the fruit, the vegetable. They don't want the other stuff. And that happens all the time. They're paying more for that entree because when we do the pricing, we make it more expensive for them to buy a la carte than if they buy a meal, because that entices the customer to buy a meal. And we want the students to buy the meal because that's where we get our reimbursement from, right? And USDA wants that too. And they tell us that's how we should do our pricing. So when we do our meal price, we do this whole, it's spreadsheet after spreadsheet of, it's a price equity model that school districts fill out to see where they are with their price for their meals. Do we need to be higher or lower? So that's available to us on a year-to-year basis, that we fill that out. We do all that information. It's pages and pages, spreadsheets of spreadsheets to fill out to get to the answer. Am I at the right price? That's my bottom line. Am I at the right price? And we are. So we're not going to change our price point. And we price our a la carte entrees at a point where if the child buys a la carte, they're paying more than if they get the meal. So a lot of times the cafeteria staff will say, well, if you just put fruit on your tray, get a fruit juice or get a pack of apples or get a pack of craisins or raisins, and then I can charge you the meal price because it's better for you and your mom's going to be happier. So we do price. I think we are where we need to be. But when we bring something in like sushi, it's priced higher because we pay a high price for that. And we have to charge anything that we are selling in our cafeteria has a markup, just like anything you buy anywhere else has a markup. So we have to mark everything up.
I think this parent's point was that if you had higher quality, such as the sushi at a higher price point, perhaps there would be better quality options.
And I understand that. And so we've looked at even offering maybe an organic meal, maybe at a higher price. I'm just not there yet because of my staffing situation, but I understand what you're saying, but I can't price myself out of the market because I have to be fair to everyone. But I understand when you're talking about higher quality or higher organic or certain items, we could put a higher price tag on that. It would be an a la carte item like sushi.
I think labeling something as organic would be very interesting to families so they'd know they had that option.
Yeah.
Do parents have any input on what the choices are for the monthly menus?
They can give me input, but at the end of the day, the way that we're going to make that decision is it has to meet the USDA standards. It has to work within my framework of my menu analysis software so that I meet all the standards. And it has to be something that my staff physically can make And it has to be within the cost parameters of my budget guidelines and the framework that I work within to make sure that at the end of the day, at the end of the year, I'm going to be financially afloat and not be in the red. So I have to meet all those standards. So anybody can give me any feedback that they want and I'll take it. But that doesn't mean that I can serve exactly what they want me to serve them, because I have to meet all of those key factors in order for me to put that on the menu.
You thread the needle very well. It's quite a balancing act. Thank you so much, Karen. This was really eye-opening, great information. We kind of now understand what you're doing, and we don't want to run that kitchen ourselves.
Nobody really does.
Thank you.
Nobody does.
All right, everyone, remember in December, we will be hearing about legislative issues. That's December 13th, I believe. And we'll see you then. Thank you.
Oh, you know what, Cheryl?
Yes.
I think I have, wait a minute.